Hello everyone and welcome back. So yet again, I have another detour for you guys before we go to Django REST framework. And that came from a conversation I had with one of the viewers here. And by the way, I really appreciate you guys texting me and giving your thumbs up and appreciating what I do, and also giving me those suggestions, which is really good. And I think you guys will like it if you follow this tutorial and you kind of just stick to what I do. But basically what I think about learning programming is that when I see my website being up and running, it's not just a terminal, it's a nice website with nice features, and I can see actually, you know, something modern and pretty and with a powerful backend as well. That's where I start feeling a lot of joy from programming. And having that deployed out in the internet, that was another huge step for me, feeling like, okay, I'm out there. I'm actually doing something that is out there and available for everyone. And I can share that with my friends if I want to, or obviously in the future with my boss, future boss. So I think I'm gonna take this little detour here and talk about deployment. So without further ado, I'm gonna just go here and tell you that my knowledge about deployment is based on this tutorial here. It's from Corey Schaefer. He's a brilliant Django and Python developer. I learned a lot from this guy, so I really recommend him. And this tutorial is really good because it shows you a lot of walls that you can hit when you deploy your Django app. So, but I'm not going to hit those walls. If you want to see it, it's 53 minutes. It's not that long, and you'll see a couple of things that it's nice to have at the back of your head. But what I did was, after watching this, I made my my notes so you just follow steps that will take you to your deployment. So I'm gonna try not to hit those walls. So what is Heroku? So basically what I want to do here is I want to deploy our app to Heroku. Heroku puts a lot of abstraction to deployment. So instead of, you know, the hardcore way would be buying your own computer, setting up your own Linux or whatever server, and installing your app there, and you know there's a lot of work involved. So obviously we're walking away from it. You probably heard of like AWS and EC2 and Dockerizing, Kubernetes, whatever. There's a lot of ways of there's a lot of those buzzwords that you probably heard when it comes to deployment and web services. And Heroku, I think, is brilliant for starting your first steps, making your first steps. And because what it does, it makes it even more abstract than using AWS. That makes, you know, everything for you in terms of like building servers and setting up a lot of things. And Heroku is taking another step towards the ease of deployment. So once you set a couple of things right, all you have to do is push your code into either Heroku repo or GitHub repo and just link that GitHub to your Heroku account, and that way you just wait for the app to be up and running. So it's not going to like prepare you for DevOps job. No, it's going to abstract the DevOps job from you so you can focus on coding and not care about the deployment. So one thing about Heroku is it's easy. Another is it's free when you play around and you just learn coding. So huge kudos to Salesforce that allows young developers to play around and not pay a cent for a pretty awesome service. But then when you're ready, let's say you poke around and you're building your app and you're ready to go, you want the world to see what you have and you want it to be fast and reliable, you just pay a little bit more and a little bit more the more you scale up. But you don't have to move it anywhere or redeploy. It's ready to go. It just needs to be scaled up. So I really like this idea. Obviously, in the future, when you work for like a big company, a lot of companies like to have their own setup, like in AWS and somewhere in a swarm, because it gets so big and expensive when you use someone's platform. But Heroku is a great first step. So one last note, when you deploy to Heroku, don't think you have everything sorted. There's a lot of add-ons that you can use, and they're still for free if you stay within certain limits. But for example, if you want to add something like user uploads, you need something that will store those uploads. I'm not talking about the Excel files that we use for just processing and dumping into the vacuum. It's not being stored anywhere. But I mean, if you want to have like a social media thing or whatever, you upload files to your say music or whatever, to your web app, you need something that will store it, and Heroku doesn't take care of that. So you can store your code, your all the files are there, static files as well. So JS and any pictures that you use, only small pictures that you use for like logos and stuff, that will stay. So just keep that in mind. You have 512 megabytes of space for free, which means it's a lot of space. And if you want to have a couple of pictures here and there, you have loads of space for that. But then keep in mind, you need something like AWS S3 at the back if you want to put more media. Okay, so let's start with the Django checklist. There's something, if you Google Django deployment checklist, and in here, I'm not going to go through it, but just keep in mind that this page of documentation exists and it's good to read it. I read it before, and I think I'm covering all of the steps in my tutorial, but also you go through it and make sure you understand what needs to be done. There's a couple of things that are not applicable to our setup. So just, go through it and see what's in there. But right now, I'm going to just go here and start setting up our portfolio app to be ready for deployment. So first thing I would like to do is install a couple of things that we need for the deployment. So pip install gunicorn is the Python server, let's say. I'm not going to go in too deep into it. It's good to know what it is. So go ahead and Google it and check what is Python gunicorn. But yeah, it's something that Heroku is using for running the show in the background. Heroku can do a lot of different things. It's not just for Django, it's not just for Python, it's for many different things. So just so you need to be very specific when you say, hey, here's the thing that you're going to use with Python, and you also have to specify in settings that it's going to be a Python project, and that's going to be something that you need to use. And also we need to install it first. So gunicorn, and then also we need django-heroku, which is basically a super magical library that takes care of a lot of things for us. So like the setting up our Postgres database in deployment, and also a couple of settings. So press enter. So I already had it installed because I tried to make a video before and I had so many problems. So one problem that I had here was obviously this library. So this is always a bit of a pain in, and so there's a couple of different ways of sorting it out. For me, what worked was installing Postgres, which I forgot I didn't have installed. So obviously, this is a Python library that is supposed to communicate and is like I don't know exactly what it does, but it's for Postgres anyway. And Postgres is like one of those databases, right? We were up until now we were using SQLite, but in Heroku, we are going to use Postgres. So first we need to install it on our computer so we can install this on our computer. So then we can do something like this. You probably remember that because we already did it here. We did install some, we froze the requirements here. And the way to do it is as follows. So freeze. So if you pip freeze, you just list whatever we have installed in our venv. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send that to a requirements.txt, right? So you're using this notation to send those new elements to requirements.txt, and as you can see, these are the new elements here, and that's what we need. I can see I installed this. I don't think we need that for since I managed to install this. So, but anyway, it's not gonna hurt. I tried it and it works, so I'm gonna leave it as it is for now, not to make it too long. So that's sorted, right? So install new things, pip freeze them so you have them ready for Heroku to pick it up and install it. Because in the pipeline somewhere, abstracted from us, and that's beautiful, it looks for this file and it installs whatever we say to install. Okay, another thing that Heroku needs is Procfile. And again, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but basically what you need to do is you need to type something like this: web:/gunicorn and the name of the project. So we basically want to specify this file. So the name of the project, Marex portfolio.wsgy. Again, this is here we specify what kind of servers or service it's going to be. It's going to be web. This is how we run it using gunicorn. That, by the way, we specified, hey, install it first, so then you can use it. And then we say, hey, go to this file and figure it out. And I'm going to just leave it at that because I can either talk about whiskey and gunicorn forever, or just leave it for you to figure it out. It's good to know what it does and what it is. But yeah, I'm gonna just leave it as it is. Just know that you need that file for Heroku to work. Okay, so goodbye, goodbye. So now that we have this new setup, let's go to settings and add some libraries here. So that django-heroku, that's the stuff that we need here. And all you have to do, let's go all the way to the bottom here and say django-heroku.settings, and we just pass those locals in here, right? So this is some sort of a global function that we pass into this function that is part of this library that we just installed, and I imported it here. And once you do that, there's a lot of magic going on in the background for your peace of mind. You don't need to set up a couple of things, which is probably why this doesn't need to be changed anymore. This is something that you want to set up for Django to know, okay, I'm at www.marksportfolio.herokuapp.com, and this takes care of it. You don't need to specify in here this address. It's being taken care of automatically. So I'm going to leave it as it is, but there's a couple of things I want to change here. One is adding, okay, so I'm going to just import here OS, which we use for getting environment variables. And why do I need them? Because some secrets shouldn't be in our code. What we want to do is we want to do something like this. Hey, from OS, environ, get something called secret key, and I'm going to just copy and paste so I don't make a mistake there. And so for now we don't have it. If I try to get it, I wouldn't have it there. So I mean, I do have it because, as I said, I tried this video before and I didn't reverse everything. But basically, if you're using PyCharm, to be able to get one of those and be able to use our PyCharm configuration and the run setup, you need to go to the configuration and you need to change it slightly. So this is our server that we used for running, and in here you can see those environment variables. You can pass them here. And see, I set secret key to something that I generated, and I'll show you how I did it. And here's some debug true, and I'll tell you in a second why we have that. So go ahead and, wait a second, I'll show you how to get a nice new secret. So let's go to Python, and in Python, import secrets, and using secrets.token_hex, and get 24 in there. So that's 24-bit, and it generates a random string, hexadecimal string, that you can pass into your config now. So once you go here, you create a secret key and paste. So I'm going to paste it now. Why not? Up. And just make sure you don't have the quotation marks there. And voila, and then debug true, and I'll tell you what to do with those two variables in a second. But now, instead of having something secret here in the code where somebody might have an access to and read it and use it to hack our site, now we just take it from the environment, which is way harder to hack and get an access to. Now debug. So we don't want to, in deployment, debug should be always false. You don't want a user to have an access to your debugging messages, so it has to be false. But okay, but you want to have it true here. So it doesn't make sense really to change it to true whenever you deploy, you develop and write in local, and then, okay, I have to remember before I deploy, I need to change it to false. That's tricky, and that's gonna result in you leaving that as true and then leaking some information to the users and outside world. So what you can do is you can do os environ.get, and from environ I'm gonna get this debug. But you could see before that was true, but that was a boolean before, and now I'm getting a string that is maybe true, maybe something else. So let's say if it doesn't exist there, I'm gonna just say false, right? But it's a string. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just put that here. So I'm testing if this string that I'm getting from environ is true. Otherwise, if it's not true, if it's anything else, or if it doesn't exist, it's gonna be false, right? So only when we set debug to string true, that's the only time when debug is set to true. And as you could see in my configuration, that was the case for me in my local, and I don't want to do it for the deployment. In deployment, I'm not going to add that one, meaning it's not going to be true, and as a result, that's going to be false. As I said, django-heroku is sorting this out, so we can skip this step. So also one more thing I wanted to mention was that before and in Corey's video about deployment, he needed to add this static root in here that specifies where the static root is supposed to collect all the static, because Django, the way Django works is whenever you are finished with deployment, with development, when you deploy your Django application, it collects all the static into one folder, and from there only it takes those static files. But I can see here, I think it's a newer version because now we have Django 3 point whatever. I think this is taking care of that because I didn't need to add anything and it did work. So I'm going to leave it at that, but just keep in mind that if you see something about static files, you might need to add this root, although I'm pretty sure that's what takes care of that. Okay, so now let's move on to Git. Let me exit from Python. So Git, we do have Git set up for this project. If you followed me from the beginning to until now and you're using Git, if you're not using Git, that's fine. Make sure you have it installed. So just go and Google Git install and look for ways of installing Git on your computer. Okay, so here you go to, I'll just scroll down and you have Linux, macOS, and so on. So I'm not going to show you how to do it, but basically you need to have it there. Then you do, obviously you need to be in this directory, so root directory of your project. So let me just see if we're there, and as you can see, yep, that's the one. And so then you do git init, and in here you can see we reinitialized, meaning nothing happened, just make, you do have initialized git repo here. Just a quick note, I finished my tutorial and I just remembered that I didn't mention this very important file, gitignore. Before you do the add and commit, it's very important that you create this file. I'm going to put a link to this file in my description, or you can just take it from my repo, but it's very important that you have this file because you don't want all that junk in your repo, right? So as you can see by color, there's a couple of folders and files that are not being taken into consideration when collecting all the Git files and folders. So you need that to just make sure you don't collect any rubbish, right? And there's a couple of like env folders, and you probably know that you don't want them in your repo. So make sure you have this gitignore file in your root directory, so you don't collect stuff when you do git add and git commit. And so from this point, even if you didn't do anything with Git up until now, all you have to do is do git add all. You can check what's the status of your change. So you can see we created a new Procfile, we modified settings, and we modified requirements. That's exactly what happened. So we can move forward and do git commit message. So what's going to be a message of this commit? I don't know. Ready to deploy to Heroku, right? And boom, that's ready to go. I'm not going to push it yet because we need to set up a couple of things here and there. So let's move back to Heroku. So I'm already logged in, but basically what you have to do is you have to create a new account. It's pretty straightforward. So I skipped that step. And once you're at this screen with me, what you have to, so we have two ways of creating a new app. We can just hit create new app in here and just set it up with GUI. But in here, we can do something like this. Heroku. Oh, sorry. So we need to install Heroku CLI. Let me just go here if you don't have it. Because what I want to show you is how to use Heroku from the terminal mostly, right? So on macOS, you just copy this and paste it. Here you have Windows, Ubuntu. So if for macOS, you would paste it here and install it. I did it already, and I did have a problem with, what was that? I think it was Xcode. So I had to update Xcode, but after I did that, this install went through, and there was no problem. So once you have that installed, you should be able to do something like Heroku and see a list of items here that you can, so commands that you can use with Heroku, right? So we're gonna use some of them today. So one of them is Heroku login, right? So I want to use, so what it says is press any key to open a browser, and it opens the browser. And once I'm logged in here, because I was before, it just says, hey, go ahead and just click this and you're set up, which is super awesome. And that's what I'm saying. Like for you as a programmer, it takes so much work when it comes to setting mambo jumbo stuff that you might not be interested in. Not at this point anyway. You want to maybe get really good at programming and then maybe get involved into DevOps. But right now, Heroku allows you to just skip all that stuff with very easy setup. Okay, so as you can see, we are connected to my account. So now what we can do is we can create this here. See, instead of going here and creating an app, I'm going to do it here. Create. The name, I'll try. It might be taken. So Marex-portfolio, enter. And it wasn't taken. So cool. So that's going to be my website, and I can click this, or I can, as you can see here, we have new repo on Heroku. So it's not GitHub anymore that we're going to use at some point. If you want to open your project that so Heroku now knows what project we're using for this job. So let's Heroku open, and that knows where to take us. Oop. Couldn't find that app. That is interesting. Okay, that opened. Let's see again. That is strange. I'll try to figure this out at some point, but it should just open this basically. But anyway, it's not crucial, and we can now set some bits and pieces up. So if I refresh here, you will see that my new app is already here, and I can just go in there. Here we have some GUI set up, but we can still do it from CLI. So I'll show you what I do on both ways, on both sides. So I need to set up those secrets now. So before we can even deploy, it's good to have all the secrets in. So what you can do is you can use the CLI. So Heroku config and set, and now secret key. And I'm gonna paste something in here. And so I actually had that open here. So you remember our import secrets. I'm gonna copy this secret here and paste it in here. Obviously, I'm going to change all those secrets, so don't worry, I'm not exposing anything confidential here. Warning, config. Oh, there you go. See, that's so nice coding. So I'm going to try to press yes in here, and it helps me with my typo, which is pretty amazing. So secret, couldn't find the app. Oh, I can see it's trying to access my previous project that I set up connected with this previously. So let me see what the GUI says. Deploy. So I want to use login, cd project init. Okay, so I need to do this probably that I forgot to do, or I'm supposed to do, to change the connection. So now remote is connected to my Marex portfolio Git, and let me try to do the secret. So now it knows that we're looking at this project. So if I do Heroku open, Heroku open, it knows where to take me. Cool. Okay, so mystery solved. Now, now that we have the secret here, let's go to GUI and go to settings. So that's another way to set up your secrets. You see, I just added that through CLI, but we have it here. And if you wanted to change that to debug true, just for a second, don't leave it here because that's going to be problematic. You don't want to debug to be true in deployment. So I'm going to just leave that open, and we're going to remove that in a second. But anyway, we are probably ready to push, right? I did the Heroku. Let me see here. I did this. So that's the way you connect your Git with the correct project. So we are ready to do something like git push. And now we're not pushing to our GitHub. We're pushing to Heroku main. Okay, and there's going to be some stuff going on. So first we push that there, and you should see the deployment going on in here. And that's going to hopefully go through because I did test it before, and hopefully we have no additional problems here. Compressing and done, launching. So you could see the installation process. Everything seems to be fine. Remote release v7. Okay, give it 1 second. It seems to be working. Right, okay, so that's it. The deployment was successful. Let's go to the website. And as you can see, it's working. At least as far as it does, because if I try to, for example, go and say login, let's just put anything in here. So let's say Marek and just try anything. It should, yeah, it should say, hey, I'm trying to access some database that doesn't exist. Although, as I said, django-heroku library set up the Postgres database that comes with Heroku account, with Heroku project. Each project, you have a dedicated database, but we need to migrate the changes because it doesn't know that Django is built the way it's built. You need to say migrate, which we did for our local SQL. Here, that one is set up for working, but in deployment, it doesn't work. And by the way, this is a debug message that we don't want to see, but I'm just proving that this is working. So now I'm going to just delete that, right? And go back and try to access the same place. And just go here, some password. And that's all you're supposed to see. I know it's still bad. We should handle it better. But anyway, it's better than the debug message that somebody can use against us, right? So that's why you don't want to have debug true in deployment. Although you have that option if you want to see what's going on in deployment, because sometimes the setup in deployment is slightly different from the local one, and it seems like it's hard to figure out what's going on there. Okay, so that's changed. Let's go back here. So what we need to do is we need to go in here. And by the way, just so you feel what's going on there, in GUI, you can go to add-ons, resources, I believe, and you can see that this Heroku Postgres hobby dev, which is free, is already installed. We didn't have to do anything. It just came with that without me asking. So you can see what's going on in there. Wait a second. You have a couple of bits and pieces about your add-on here, but also if you want to check it. So you see we have 10,000 lines, which by the way, it's not enough for our app because we have those thousands and thousands of lines that are being processed. So when you test it, make sure you cut those files, test files for air pollution to be smaller than 10,000 basically, unless you want to scale it up and pay for it. But for now, it supports only 10,000. And also, if you do Heroku PG, you can see the same information on using CLI. So just so you know, and also so you know that it exists there. And by the way, we didn't change anything here. See database, it just says, hey, go and use this database, but that's going to be only used for local. But when it's being deployed to Heroku, the Django-Heroku library knows what to do with that setting. So that's the beauty of using that library there. So you see you have the information about your database here. So let's migrate. So by the way, let's see how many tables we have. We have 0 tables. Let's see what happens when I go and do migration. So there are 2 ways to do migration. One is to run the migration like we did with setting the secret. So Heroku, see here, this is a config, that should be config, but that's like a one-liner. But I think what I prefer is actually Heroku run, and we can run bash. So it knows where to go. It knows to go to my project, this one here, because we are connected to that project. And it runs bash, which is basically a terminal there. So if I do, for example, ls, I can see my everything that is inside the root directory, which is cool, which is basically what we're supposed to see in here, right? So, and you remember how to do migration when you're in the terminal of your own machine. So we are in the remote machine right now. We are in the cloud somewhere in, SSH'd. So let's do Python, manage.py, migrate. And fingers crossed, it's gonna just go through. Sometimes I've seen some because the database that we use is different from the one in the cloud. There might be some difference there, and so it's not 100% sure that you're gonna see all green in here. Postgres is slightly different from SQLite, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so why do I prefer using bash in here? Where is it? Here. Heroku run bash, because I can continue working. I don't need to say run this and run that and every time just specify Heroku run. I can do Python manage createsuperuser marek@gmail.com and password, some silly password. Well, this password shouldn't be silly because it's out there. So if it's super easy to hack, somebody can just for fun get in there and hack it. So just make it, not completely easy, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, super user is there. So that's all we need to do from the remote server. So I'm going to exit. here. And let's see, if I go here and try to log in again, now we get, okay, we couldn't authenticate. It's not there. So let's try the new credentials. Oop. Marek. Oh, yes. So what happened is I'm supposed to use an email. So let me just go from here to admin, and I can use Marek username and then my password here, and I'm logged in. And then I'm gonna go to users and change my username if I can. Marek, and I want my username to be actually my email because that's the way I set it up. Okay, and let's go back to my website. So let's log out, and log in again. So Marek at gmail.com, the same login, and boom, it's working. So I have an access to my finances, I have an access to air pollution. And as you might remember, we need to do something very specific to our website, which is, you might remember those views here. So we had to, it's a hacky way, but it works. So basically we need to have those countries there. So let's go to air pollution. So let's go to air pollution here, say upload. And instead of upload, we're gonna go to temp country creator, no slash here because I could see there's no slash, so it's not gonna work if I put a slash there. Something reloaded, it seems to be working. And copy this and paste it here again, air pollution / temp add colors to pollutants. Something happened there, colors added, we have a message even. Okay, so we have that done. Okay, so let's add some data and see if it works. And this is a short version of our data because, as I said, we can only go as far as 10,000 items, unfortunately. So let's give it a second and see if everything goes well. By the way, right off the bat, what I will do is a bit of multi-threading here. So instead of waiting for the processing to finish, obviously you would rather see, yeah, file is uploaded and now it's being processed in the background. And also it's better because you don't want to see, a timeout error. See, we can check what happened there. Heroku logs, probably that's the timeout. There you go, request timeout. So it's too big. My internet connection today is very bad, so that's probably why. What I will do if we had time, and maybe at some point I will go back to it and add some multi-threading. So basically, instead of doing that in the connection on the same online, basically, you'd rather see that processed in the background and just a message sent back saying finished at some point, some Ajax or whatever. But anyway, that's what it is now. It seems to be working, although we get this timeout. If we had some information, but probably don't. There is something in there. So something went through and then it stopped. So that's what happens when you use free version of something. And also the design is not great, but it kind of works. It's not very fast, especially with my connection, but it doesn't break, and that's the whole thing. And now you can send it to your friends and family and say, hey guys, I'm making something cool. Go to my finances and check if you can put your finances and use it for your finances. Anyway, the last thing I just wanted to mention here, let me just Q from here. Is it Q or is it Control C? It's Control C. There is one more thing that you might want to know. So Heroku releases. So you want to see what kind of changes were happened, and if you want to roll back, you might say, for example, okay, we removed this. What if I want to go back to version 7 before we remove this? Okay, so let's do that. Let's do Heroku rollback version 7, and we just undid this. Right? So this is silly. This is just a var change. But let's say you pushed some changes and it was deployed, and you find out that, oh, it doesn't work. I need to go back and fast. This is how you do it. You just check what the releases you have, and then you roll back to whatever release you know it's stable. Okay. I wonder if I can roll back to 8. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So let me just see. In here, we might just check if the settings are correct. If I check in vars, okay. So this was set up by Heroku itself, which is Awesome. And I can see debug is not here. Okay, so that's me finished. That's your Django project on up in the internet, which is pretty cool. And you can use it from whatever. You can check it on your phone, and you can send it to your friends and family and whatever, to your future employers, and get ready for Django REST framework. Thanks for watching, and see you there. Bye bye.